Hello everybody, welcome into another lesson. So today we are going to do addition and subtraction with radicals. So much like with square roots when we did addition and subtraction with that, if you have the same radical and the same base, it's just a matter of simple addition and subtraction. You would just treat the radical as a variable. So here you have the fifth root of 6 plus 5 times the fifth root of 6. Well, you're just going to add the coefficients together, and in the end you would get 6 times the fifth root of 6. So your answer would just be 6 times the fifth root of 6. That's the best you could do. Simple enough, right? Okay, now you have 5 times 5 to the 1/7 minus 7 times 5 to the 1/7. Well, you're going to treat that 5 to the 1/7 the same as you would a variable. Since you have the same exponents, you're going to treat it like you would a variable. This would turn into -2 times 5 to the 1/7. Or you could also write this as -2 times the 7th root of 5. That's exactly what you would get, -2 times the 7th root of 5. I got 4 more. So we have negative of the 8th root of 4 plus 5 times the 8th root of 4. So we have the same base under the radical and the same root. So we just add these together. You would end up getting 4 times the 8th root of 4. And that's the best you could do, is you get 4 times the 8th root of 4. Alright, I got 3 more. This shifts a little bit. So you have 160 to the 1/2 minus 10 to the 1/2. A little bit different. This is just a little bit different. Okay, well, are there any factors of 160 that involve 10? Yes. You have 16 and 10, right? So you could take 16 times 10 to the 1/2 minus 10 to the 1/2. Alright, well, that's going to end up then giving you 16 to the 1/2 times 10 to the 1/2, all that minus 10 to the 1/2. Well, what's 16 to the 1/2 power? That's a square root of 16, which would give you 4. So now you're going to have 4 times 10 to the 1/2 minus 10 to the 1/2. So now you just treat that 10 to the 1/2 as a variable, subtract the coefficients, you would get 3 times 10 to the 1/2, or simply put, you'll end up getting 3 times the square root of 10. So this would turn into 3 times the square root of 10. I got 2 more. So we have the third root of 375 plus we have the third root of 81. Well, we have the same roots but different bases. Are there any factors of each that would give you a same radical, the same base under the radical, and have a perfect cube? Well, let's look at the cube root of 375. what if you took 125 times 3? Okay, so you would end up with the cube root of 125 times the cube root of 3. All that plus, let's now look at the cube root of 81. 81, you have 27 times 3, so you'll have the cube root of 27 times the cube root of 3. Well, what's the cube root of 125? That's just going to be 5, so you'd have 5 times the cube root of 3. Plus, now, what's the cube root of 27? Well, that's just 3, so you'd have that plus 3 times the cube root of 3. Now you have the same base with the same root. You just treat those as variables, add the coefficients. You end up with 8 times the cube root of 3. And that's the best we could do. You'd end up with 8 times the cube root of 3. And I got just one more. So we have 2 times the 4th root of 176 plus 5 times the 4th root of 11. So 2 times the 4th root of 176 plus 5 times the 4th root of 11. Well, you have the same roots but different bases. However, are there any factors of 176 that involve 11? Well, there's 11 and 16. So this would turn into 2 times the 4th root of 16 times the 4th root of 11 plus 5 times the 4th root of 11. Well, what is the 4th root of 16? It's a perfect fourth, right? That would just be 2. So you'd have 2 times the 4th root of 11 plus 5 times the 4th root of 11. Okay. Well, what's 2 times 2? That's 4. So you'd have 4 times the 4th root of 11 plus 5 times the 4th root of 11. Now you have the same base and the same root, so you just treat them like variables, add your coefficients. You should end up with 9 times the 4th root of 11. And that's the best you could simplify this in. You would just get 9 times the 4th root of 11. So that's it for this lesson. Next lesson we will start dealing with properties of exponents with variables. So I hope everyone has a great day. Take care.